In the hillside village of Clayhaven, there was a young potter named Elara who had a problem. She was perfect, or at least she tried to be. Every vase she made had to be flawless, every bowl symmetrical, every cup without blemish. Her workshop was filled with perfect pieces, identical, precise, and utterly soulless. Villagers would come, nod politely, and leave without buying. "They're very even," they'd say awkwardly. Elara couldn't understand it. She followed every rule, measured every angle, controlled every variable, yet her pottery sat gathering dust while old Man Havel's imperfect, lumpy pots flew off his shelves. One evening, frustrated after another day of no sales, Elara made a decision. She would visit Havel and discover his secret. She found him at his wheel, hands covered in clay, humming tunelessly as a vase grew lopsided between his fingers. "Your pots sell, mine don't. Why?" Elara asked bluntly. Havel didn't look up from his wheel. "Because yours have never failed." "That doesn't make sense," Elara protested. "Perfection should sell better than whatever that is." She gestured at his asymmetrical vase. Havel finally looked at her, clay drying in the wrinkles around his eyes. "Child, clay remembers. It remembers every time it's been dropped, every crack that's been repaired, every mistake that's been learned from. Your clay has no memory. It's blank." He pointed to a shelf of his pots. "See this one? The glaze ran here because I rushed the firing. Now I know. Patience. This bowl? Too thin at the rim. Collapsed once. Now I know. Balance. This pitcher? Handle attachment failed 3 times. Now I know. Connection." Elara looked at her own perfect shelves. Nothing had ever failed. Nothing had ever taught her anything. That night, Elara did something radical. She took her perfect vase, the one she'd worked on for weeks, and dropped it. The sound was terrible. The shattering was complete. She stared at the fragments, heart pounding with both horror and strange exhilaration. Then she began to gather the pieces, not to throw them away, but to study them. She saw how the clay had fractured along invisible weak points. She saw where the glaze was too thin, where the walls were uneven despite looking perfect from the outside. The next day, she made a new vase, intentionally lopsided, deliberately uneven, and when it came from the kiln, she dropped it again. This time, it broke differently. She studied those fractures too. Villagers whispered, "Elara's gone mad, breaking her own work." But Elara was learning. Her 4th vase she didn't drop. She purposefully made the walls different thicknesses. It survived the kiln, but slumped slightly. She studied the slump, learned about thermal dynamics from its sagging curve. Her 7th vase, she attached the handle wrong. It fell off during firing. She studied the attachment point, learned about clay shrinkage rates. Her 12th vase, she overfired until the glaze bubbled. She studied the bubbles, learned about chemical reactions at extreme temperatures. Her workshop became a museum of beautiful failures. Shelves labeled "Learned structural integrity here," "Discovered glaze chemistry here," "Understood clay memory here." Months passed. Elara's once perfect workshop now looked chaotic, half-finished experiments everywhere, broken pieces displayed like treasures, notes scribbled on walls, and in the center, a new collection emerging, vases and bowls and cups that were alive. They weren't symmetrical, but they were balanced. They weren't flawless, but they were whole. They carried the memory of every break, every slump, every bubble, every failure transformed into wisdom. The day came when a wealthy merchant visited Clayhaven. He saw Havel's pots, nodded appreciatively. Then he entered Elara's workshop. He stopped, walked slowly between her shelves, touched a vase that had been broken and repaired with gold, the Japanese art of Kintsugi that Elara had discovered through her failures. "Who made these?" he asked, voice hushed. "I did," Elara said, hands still clay-dusted from morning work. The merchant bought her entire collection. "I've never seen pottery with this much story," he said. "Each piece feels like it's lived, like it knows something." After he left, Havel visited. He walked through Elara's workshop, smiling at the broken pieces displayed with honor. He picked up Elara's latest vase, one that somehow managed to be both strong and delicate, both simple and complex. "You've given your clay memory," he said softly. "No," Elara corrected gently. "My failures gave me wisdom, and my wisdom gave the clay soul." We're taught to avoid failure, to hide mistakes, to present only perfect results. But failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the tuition we pay for wisdom. Every crack teaches us about strength. Every mistake reveals a boundary. Every failure contains a lesson waiting to be learned. Elara's journey shows us that true mastery doesn't come from avoiding errors, but from engaging with them deeply. That the most beautiful creations often carry the scars of what they've overcome. That what we call flaws are often just stories of learning. Your failures aren't evidence of your inadequacy, they're data for your growth. Your mistakes aren't things to be ashamed of, they're teachers asking for your attention. Every time you fail, you're being offered a lesson. The question isn't whether you'll fail, but whether you'll learn. If you're tired of fearing failure and ready to learn from your mistakes, subscribe to Life Lessons for weekly stories about growth through experience. Click the bell to embrace your learning journey. In the comments, share what's one failure that became your best teacher. Your story might help others reframe their own mistakes.